Hi, friends. This is Sheryl from Tutoring with Sheryl and the Tech Coach for Tutors. And I happen to be out in the farm office, and little Lulu here is kind of excited to see me because we have just returned from a big trip. And now I'm gearing up for my lessons tonight. And as I was getting ready, I'm actually preparing for a reading assessment. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what reading assessments look like and why I give them. Okay. Why would a reading tutor give a reading assessment? Well, first of all, I need to know if the child knows their letters. I know this sounds crazy. I'm actually going to be working with a second grader, but even if I did a third, fourth, fifth, sixth grader, I would still do this simple test. So basically what it is the child looks at the uppercase alphabet, and I have them say their letters, and they are not in alphabetical order. And then I do the same for the lowercase. And then I use the lowercase letters to ask them what sound they think is associated with that. And I keep track of it. And if they're missing multiple letters, or they're getting letters mixed up, or they're unable to produce the sounds correctly, I know that we need to go way back in the phonics materials that I use and do a lot of review. Now, sometimes this can seem a little bit overwhelming to the parents because they think, well, I hired you to teach my child how to read. You're giving my child this assessment. All you're doing is focusing on letters. But my question is, aren't we reading letters when we're putting them into words? And if we don't know the sounds of the individual letters, we really can't even read CVC words, which are consonant, vowel, consonant words. So that's really the point that I'm going to start at tonight. The next thing that I'm going to have the child do is just read a really short passage. I mean, we're talking like 2 or 3 sentences. I want to know if that child can actually read what is on the screen. Can they read from left to right? Can they pause at the end of a sentence? Are they able to sound out words unassisted? And I don't have to give them a really long passage to do that. So that'll be super short. But really, to be honest, my initial assessment is just talking to them. Hey, how are things with you? What do you like to do? And I listen to their responses because I want to hear, do they give me a one-word response? Are they able to give me a full sentence? Can they add details? Now, all those little things are really going to help me understand if I said, oh, let's write a sentence, what I maybe expect. I know that sounds crazy, but for so many kids, the way they talk is also the way that they write. Have you figured that one out yet? Maybe you haven't. The other thing that I'm going to do is ask, tell me, do you like to go to the library? Are there any books that you're reading? Can you tell me about the books? And I'm familiar with a lot of books. I don't know all of them, but I know many of them. And one of the things that I want to make sure, I just shocked myself. I'm not editing that out because it was so good. One of the things that I want to make sure that my student can do is tell me about the characters in the story. So even if I'm not familiar with the story, can the student tell me a little bit about who's the main character? What is the setting of the story? What do you remember about the story? Can you read anything from that book? And if they don't have a book there, I will just simply get into Get Epic and say, is there a story that you're familiar with that we can find? Or I might even have a story in my Amazon Kindle library that we can talk a little bit about. The next thing, if I've got any time left over, I am going to have the student use a simple letter mat, and I'm going to see if they can spell out some very simple consonant, vowel, consonant words. So those are going to be the short vowel sounds: cat, hop, fit, words like that. But don't think I'm going to give them go because that's an open syllable. So just something that would have a consonant, a vowel, and a consonant. So just a couple words just to see if they can actually sound out those words. And that's really all my lesson's going to be tonight. But I think reading assessments are really powerful because they go kind of in depth, and I get to kind of see the child's think time. Is there a lot of think time, or is this child just going to just use no think time and just guess? Is the child going to make up a word when they come across a word that is an unknown word? Are they just going to substitute or skip the word? Are they going to get their P's, B's, D's mixed up? Do they know that C can make more than one sound? Or do they know that C makes different sounds in different situations? Are there words that they come across in their reading that are very simple words that they don't even know, they don't even understand? So understand the vocabulary. So here's the thing. Some things that you can do at home to help your child, whether they're meeting with a teacher, an educator, a tutor, somebody who's going to give an assessment. There's a lot of stuff that you can do on a daily basis that I don't think that parents really think about. And that reading routine is one of them. Sitting down, every night and just reading. And, if your child's, let's say, in 6th grade and they don't want to read with you, how about setting a time where all of your digital devices are turned off? TV's off, phones are off, tablets are off, and everybody's got a piece of paper in their hand, a book, an article, a newspaper article, a magazine. Yes, they still make those things, believe it or not. And you're going to read. And set the timer, 15 minutes. And at the end of the 15 minutes, you talk about what you read. Or if your child's really young, setting that timer for a half hour, 20 minutes, whatever you can get. 30 minutes a day is huge. And you're going to read to the child. Sometimes parents get really upset when the child wants to hear the same story over and over and over again. Don't worry about that. Do you know that you are cementing a memory in your child's mind that you are having special time with your child, and they're going to remember. I remember we would sit in my room or sit on the couch and we would read stories, and I would always want to hear the book Good Night Moon. They might tell you that when they're 30 years old, when they're sitting there reading a book to their child. And then they might say, I remember going to my room and I used to pretend to be looking for the little mouse in the book. What a beautiful memory. Okay. So, or not, if you have a real mouse in your house, but anyway, think about the memories that you're teaching your child. Here's the other thing. You're teaching your child how to read from left to right. You're teaching your child new words, new vocabulary words. You're teaching your child to use pictures as clues, which is not the best reading strategy, but can help some readers. You're teaching your child what those letters say. They're going to ask you, what is that little dot on the page? Or what are those two little hanging commas or two little flags that hang up in the air, quotation marks? I can't even describe them. They're going to start to ask you those things. They're going to start to learn what the different illustrators do in their books, little things. Maybe there's hidden pictures or hidden messages, or maybe they're really excited about books about dragons and they're going to get stuck in a genre. Okay, that's okay. So let's say they're stuck in a genre for a while. You can get them out of that genre. If it's a fiction genre about dragons, then you can say, well, let's go see if we can find a nonfiction book about the history of dragons and why people used to believe that dragons were real. And maybe that will get you into dinosaurs, or maybe that will get you into fossils or something else. And then kind of extend the learning. Boy, there are so many things that you can do to really help your child. Even those little foam letters in the bathtub that stick to the wall, or blocks that you might have. Sometimes I think we discount the simplest things. Tiles from the Scrabble game, if you're not using it. You can use those and lay them out, and the kids can manipulate them and move them to make simple words. And literally starting with their name, I think, is a great place to start so that they can identify it. And then they're going to say, hey, my name is so-and-so. I have an E in my name. There's an E. And they're going to start to identify that, because reading is not something that we wake up knowing how to do. We have to be taught it. And some people, and this is true, some people pick it up right away. And other people, it takes a long time. And if your child is struggling, struggle is good. It is. I mean, that's how we learn, right? But if you go to parent-teacher conferences, let's say your child's school age or preschool, and the teacher says that your child's just a little bit behind, but don't worry, they'll outgrow it. Oh, please do not take that as permission to not read or do something about it. I heard that a lot with my son. he'll outgrow his speech problem. He never outgrew his speech problem. We had to intervene. He had to do some serious work. I'm so proud of him. He is a wonderful communicator. He can write well, he can talk well, he can read well. But had we not intervened, and I was intervening at age 3, I was concerned. I was taking him to specialists, trying to get a diagnosis. I was taking him to speech people. Nope, he's too young. He hasn't met the milestone markers. Then I found somebody who privately did it, and we got help right away. He got a little bit better, and then we went to school, and he was still behind. And I fought tooth and nail. And you guys, I'm an educator, and I was in the school system, and I had to demand that they do something to help him. So he started out with a 504 plan, and they were just going to come in and do targeted work with him. And they realized really that he was having more significant errors than what he was showing, because he was really good at being able to answer the questions and super, super smart. But they realized that there was more going on, and he literally did, I think a year or 2 of major speech. He had an IEP and everything. And there's nothing wrong with that, because if he had not gotten that, he might not be where he's at today. He's a small business owner now, and he's doing very, very well. And, it built his confidence. I'm so proud of him. I'm so incredibly proud of him, because he put in the work. So getting help for something doesn't mean that, you as a parent have failed. I mean, my goodness, I'm an educator, and I knew that there was something that wasn't right there, but I had to find the right person. So make sure that you're reaching out, even if your child right now is having a speech issue and you're like, well, what's my next step? Fill out my contact form, get on my calendar. You can do a 15-minute consultation with me for free. I can give you some suggestions of some things that you can do. And here's the thing, you can request that the school look into it, and they should clearly be looking at that. But when you think about the numbers of kids that are in classrooms, sometimes things do get overlooked. But that's their job. They are supposed to be on the lookout, and they are supposed to be, paying attention to that and saying, hey, I think this child might be behind. So if you go to any kind of a meeting and they say, well, your child's a little bit behind, I want you to ask, what are you going to do about it here, and what can we do about it at home? And if they give you ideas and suggestions, please do not ignore it. If you need to make a reminder on your calendar to come back to that and revisit it, a couple times a week, and say, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're going to practice whatever skill they told us, and then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're going to do this as part of our plan. Put it on your calendar. And the reason I say that is, if you're a busy parent like most parents, you're going to forget. It's just going to go by the wayside. You're just going to get busy, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that I needed to do that. So don't put it off. It's going to be really, really important. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up with some advice, okay? And you can take it or leave it. The first thing that I want to just maybe encourage you to do, if you're a young parent, is start reading to your child early. The more that you can read to your child and talk to your child. So you got to put your digital devices down, parents. You can't be on your device all the time. You need to have constructive conversations about things. The more that you can speak to your child and read to your child, the more words they're going to know, so that when they get into school and they start reading those words, they can understand what they're reading. Vocabulary is huge. Those children who have parents that maybe don't spend as much time talking to them or reading to them come in and they're already behind. So having those conversations is crucial. Even if your child doesn't actually want to engage in conversation, because there are some reasons why kids might not want to engage. Maybe they're shy, or maybe they're on the autism spectrum or something like that. You still need to have the conversations. Talk about things that you see. Get out in nature, go and explore, talk about the things that you find, go find books about what you're seeing, talk about it, read about it, learn about it. Okay, that is my biggest advice to you. I have a friend named Jan, and I know I've mentioned this in another recording, but she had 3 kids, and I was teaching them, just 3 brilliant kids. And they loved to learn, and they were just so sharp. And I said, Jan, how do you do it? I want to be able to have kids that are just as smart as yours. And she told me, We just spend a lot of time reading. And I'm just going to tell you right now, it does make a difference. So, and then don't assume, here's the other little bit of advice. Once your child starts to read, do not assume that they know how to pick out a book that's a good fit book, okay? So I find this a lot, both in my teaching career and now as a private educator, that parents are like, yeah, we got him this book. And then I ask the child to read the book and they can't read the book. Just because it is a picture book does not mean that it is written at their level. The easiest way to determine that a child can read it is to open up to the middle of the book and just to have them read a full page. And if it's got just a couple sentences on each page, maybe have them read 2 pages. And if they're making more than 4 or 5 errors on that page, that book is too difficult. So that's going to be a book that you're going to want to read with them. That doesn't mean that they can't read it on their own. That means that you need to make sure that you're reading it with them and catching errors, and do not be afraid to stop your child and say, oh, let's try that word again. It's this instead. And then ask them to repeat it. Because when children practice words incorrectly, it does not improve their reading. That's like when your child is in the classroom and they're doing small group instruction. They've gotten a 15-minute lesson and they're supposed to go back for the next 45 minutes and practice what they just learned. If they didn't get it in the 15 minutes, they now have 45 minutes of practice where they did it incorrectly. And then teachers scratch their head and wonder why their kids can't read. So be active, make sure that you're aware of what your child is reading, monitor that, encourage them, and don't forget to correct them. If you want to get in touch with me, I will leave my calendar link. I do a couple times a week. I have opportunities for parents to sign up for a quick 15-minute conversation with me. If you want to sign up and the time doesn't work, go ahead and sign up for a date and time, and then just send me an email and say, oh, this time won't work for me. Do you have a time at a different day or time? And then I will definitely look into my schedule and get back to you, because we want literate kids. We want kids who are confident readers and writers, and the best way to do it is to work as a team. You guys make it a great day, and as usual, keep the learning.